I'm Mike DeLuca. Welcome to this rare in-the-trenches look at the craft of screenwriting. Today I'm sitting here with the writing team of Lowell Ganz and Babaloo Mandel. Together these two have penned 18 produced screenplays, including everything from Gone with the Wind to Battleship Potemkin. No, I'm kidding. From everything from Night Shift, Splash, City Slickers, A League of Their Own, Edtv,
Parenthood.
Forget Paris, Parenthood, and thank you, and
A League of Their Own, City Slickers.
And Fever Pitch.
And Schindler.
And Schindler's List. Welcome, Lowell and Babaloo. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Before we get to anything meaty, I'll start with the substantive stuff. Where did you get the name Babaloo? And is Philip Roth involved?
From this young, yes, yes, it's from this young man.
For posterity, can you tell us the story?
He can.
Well, we met on the street on Sunset Boulevard outside the old Comedy Store. Well, Comedy Store's still there. The young writers and comedians would stand around in the driveway of the Comedy Store. This is in the 70s, and we'd just stand there and make fun of people who had jobs, in the business. He just introduced himself as Mark Mandel, and I had just read Portnoy's Complaint by Philip Roth, and there was a character in there named Mark Mandel, who one of the jokes in the book is he goes down to the Brooklyn County Courthouse and has his first name legally changed to Babaloo.
Because he hated his parents.
Yeah.
He wanted to give them massive heart attacks.
So I just immediately began referring to him as Babaloo Mandel.
And a little voice said, screen name, pretty cool.
So Desi Arnaz had nothing to do with it?
Had nothing to do with it. Had nothing to do with it.
You also spent a lot of time restoring cars and homes?
That's right. What does that have to do with screenwriting?
You can only get to the second part of the question, Mr. Weisenheimer.
Mix those cards on.
Does this help your writing in any way?
It helps me relax.
Okay.
It helps me relax.
We'll say that as relevant.
Okay. It is. Lowell watches a lot of sports, and I like to work with my hands. I'm like one of the, besides Christ, I'm the only Jew that's handy.
Well, you jump to my next question. Do you have any comparable idiocy?
No, I mean certainly not as relates to our writing. I mean, I think in the workspace we're remarkably unidiosyncratic.
You write longhand, right?
Yeah, I guess at this point.
Is that like a Luddite thing? Or
I guess the things that were not idiosyncratic 25 years ago have now become idiosyncratic. I haven't changed, but everything else has.
You could go in our office and think it was the 30s.
Yeah.
Seriously, it's just white paper and pens, and then we hand everything off to our assistant Rose.
Yeah, and she actually has a word processor.
In fact, we wear the Hecht and MacArthur hats.
That would be perfect. I would love actually to if we looked like we were writing in that era. But ballpoint pen, longhand, and I just always feel like it's flowing, just straight down from here, through the arm and onto the page.
Well, you're one of the most successful collaborations in Hollywood history, and given just the length of your filmography, can you pretty much pick your assignments at this point? Do you just, choose what you want to do, and how has it changed over the years in terms of what possible freedoms you have now that you didn't have in the beginning?
I don't think writers, and we are specifically writers. We've never directed or produced really. So I mean, we've never had any illusions about what our space is in the industry, what our power level is. We're desirable on some level because we come through, we execute. But people are not interested really in our ideas about what would be a successful or popular movie. They're still interested in their own ideas of what would be a successful or popular movie, and then would like us to execute them. Every once in a while, there is an intersection between what we are interested in writing and what somebody thinks would be a successful movie, and then those are the ones we do.
Have you ever felt any pressure to take assignments in your career?
We have kind of two separate careers. We have the nice movies
and the secret career,
and the secret career. We have done over the last 20 years a huge amount of ghost work, and we don't
I have triplets. They need 3 cars.
Yes,
Right?
that's a total of 9 college tuitions.
Yeah.
I know a lot of those assignments. I won't mention them here, but
Yeah, and anybody can go on the internet. I mean, there are no secrets anymore.
Because even my mother knows. You worked on this?
Yeah, but even then, I don't think I would describe it as feeling pressured to do it. Probably the only pressure we ever feel is when it actually comes from a friend. You know, somebody with whom we've worked a lot, and they're in an emergency, and maybe we're not particularly enamored of the material, but we will almost never turn down a friend. But that's really the only kind of pressure.
that's kind of rare in Hollywood, just the kind of, trying to help a friend.
We've actually, a lot of people have been very good to us. Mm-hmm. We don't have so many of those Hollywood screenwriter horror stories about how badly we were treated. And usually when we work with somebody, we tend to work with them many, many times again. So, our relationships have been good, and that matters a lot to us.
Apart from the beginning, have either of you ever tried writing anything solo? And how did that work out? Or has it always been, once it was a team?
Sometimes I write, but it's just an exercise. Put it in a drawer, just keep the brain active.
Yeah, I never liked, I worked in TV for years, and I had another partner, fellow named Mark Rothman. We were Rothman and Ganz on our TV days. And then we split up, and while I was still in TV, you have to do a lot of writing in TV, and I would sometimes just swing open the door and see who on the staff was just, eating a bagel, wandering the hall, and I pretty much knew what I wanted to do. But I would still have somebody come in and sit there.
But that gets into, what are the benefits of writing in a partnership, would you say? And are there any drawbacks?
No, it's just, there's good energy, there's good spontaneity, there's just riffs, there's good, because we write out loud, the writing, the actual writing part, we've written it before and then just putting it on paper, so it's just, it's really spitting, it's just.
The main asset is he's very good. That's actually the biggest, but besides the writing, there's also just sort of the psychic benefits. You go to a lot of meetings, and sometimes they're peculiar, is the best way of putting it. And you can come home and try to tell your wife.
But she wasn't there.
But she wasn't actually there. There's something about having somebody who was there with you going and saying, was it me?
Was it me?
or was it the meeting?
Right.
That's, so actually additionally to the writing, I find that like just immensely comforting to not be alone.
Can you tell me the most peculiar meeting without, you don't have to mention names, but I'm just curious.
Oh.
Without mention, do you want to?
Unless you can mention names.
Go back to picture number 2 without mentioning names.
Oh, yeah, well, when we were shopping Splash around,
yes,
we had a meeting with somebody who was just like really eager to do it, but wanted the Tom Hanks character to meet the mermaid
in a grocery
character in a grocery store.
Okay, there was no
wallet
underwater.
Couldn't
they just bump into each other?
They should do like a meet cute, and then we had a meeting once on a movie that never got made, where it wasn't till about halfway through the meeting that we realized that the person with whom we were meeting had actually not read our draft.
He had not read the script.
That he was the head of the studio, and he'd actually been given, coverage on a thing and been prepped for the meeting.
What tipped you off?
Well,
the battlefield scene.
No, I was actually the last guy in the meeting to get it. I was Mr. Stupid, because my mentor, Gary Marshall, had told me really, really early in my TV days, he said, never leave a meeting confused. And it's a great, great lesson, by the way. You could leave a meeting in combat with the people, but don't ever walk out of there where they think you know what you're going to write and you actually don't, right? So I was giving these notes, and they were just a little off to me, and I did what I tend to do. I got real bulldoggy about it and tried to pin him down to specifics. Not in combat. I wasn't like, fight, that's stupid, that's a stupid, I don't do that. But, like, well, are you talking about this scene specifically? You're talking more about that scene. And he kept saying things like, I'm not prepared to respond in that specific way.
Suddenly it's a congressional hearing.
You know, yes, yeah. And the producers who were with us kept like trying to wink me. They kept like trying, psst, psst, like the
Bulldog Drummond here.
Yes, finally, got it. And they came and they like, didn't you get like halfway through? You were just embarrassing. I'm sorry. You know, I get enthusiastic and I wanted to
So
know.
it's repitched as your mistake and
Yes,
you
yes. It was definitely repitched as my mistake.
Not that the studio head should be
no,
embarrassed.
unquestionably, it was my mistake. You're supposed to be very careful not to let anybody in that position ever seem, look, or feel foolish in a meeting. That apparently is our job. So, and I flubbed it. But we were very young.
Did you guys write any features before Night Shift? Either unproduced or produced? Was that the first feature script?
That was that was our first feature.
And what sparked the shift from TV to features?
Well, you didn't really have to. You were waiting to write features. You really had no interest in your TV career.
Yeah, then I got married and my wife said, you're going to work.
But that's how you got into TV.
That's how I got into TV. So,
Yeah.
but TV was great because TV was like my writing college because it's immediate and it's quick and it's there's volume and you definitely learn. That's where you learn.
Yeah, I mean, you just do a tremendous amount of writing, you know, and I mean, for me, I think it was as much a personal decision as a creative or artistic position. We both started to have, you know, young families, young kids, and we were in the sitcom business, which is, you know, 10, 11, 12, 1 o'clock, 2, 3, or 4 nights a week, depending on how things are going. And
You come home at the end of the day, he learned to drive a car. Oh, fuck, I missed that.
So I was actually working on Happy Days, and we were the audience had left after the Friday night shoot, and we were doing pickups, and it was late, and Ron Howard came up to me and said, just like this, he said, I'm going to direct movies. Are you going to write movies? And I just said, sort of instinctively, I said, if you'll direct them, I'll write them.
Oh, that's great.
And then about a year went by, and he left the show, and he called and he said, you know, I wasn't kidding that time, and he and Brian Grazer brought this little notion, and I was nervous. I mean, I had done TV for, I had written and edited and rewritten, you know, 1,000 half hours over like the last 8 years. And I said, this is going to be something new. And I knew Babaloo, and I knew he was really
Private Babaloo returning for duty.
but I mean, he had really focused on screenwriting, even though he hadn't gone into that yet. So we tried it together.
Which was good though, because we were working on the show, making some money.
We didn't quit our day job.
Didn't quit the day job because we're nervous Jews.
Yes.
And so we wrote.
Yes, we'd go back to my TV office and we'd write it, you know, during a quiet couple of hours each day, and they weren't, you know, and they weren't screaming at us on the set of the TV show. And I mean, we didn't know. We thought, you know, maybe we'd just do one project together. But that was 25 years ago.
It's still one of the funniest movies ever made.
Oh, thanks.
Michael Keaton, Henry, they're both.
Yeah. You know, I don't know. It just it's held up for some reason.
What was writing for Happy Days like?
Happy Days was exactly what you would want it, what you would think it would be. You know, I mean, it was a very
Happy.
pleasant. Yes, it was a very pleasant, happy. You know, it was like writing in Disneyland. I mean, but I mean, I'm being sort of facetious, but you know, the old saying that the fish stinks from the head. It had to do with Ron and Henry, and this sort of Ron's just a very solid kind of guy,
right?
And Henry is a very sweet guy. And they just kind of set this tone. It just was not, you know, it was just not a hostile atmosphere at all. It was really a very pleasant place to be.
And how did the system for turning out teleplays work?
I don't know that it worked, actually. I started, as I said, I was much more immersed in it. Babaloo always sort of kept his, sort of tiptoed around.
When the window was
perimeter.
open, I was down. I was a little ashamed.
But I was immersed in it. I was all I ever wanted to be. Really, that was my dream, was to be a TV writer. You know, I wanted to I wanted to be on the Dick Van Dyke Show. I'm not sure if I wanted to write the Dick Van Dyke Show or write the Alan Brady Show. You know, it kind of like got mixed up in my head. I wanted to be in that room with Dick Van Dyke. Right. So I started right out of college on The Odd Couple, and how that work was just you just try to come up with stories, just try to generate, a couple of dozen stories a year, and then just beat them out. And that's actually how I stuck. I was like this savant. Somebody could give me like a story area, and I could sort of turn it into a beginning, a middle, and that just came. I don't know why. We all have these odd sort of wrinkles, and
do you think it came from watching
I'm
whatever
sure
inspired
it did.
you?
I'm sure it did. I was so enamored of sitcom as a young person. I just loved them so much. The Dick Van Dyke Show in particular, that I'm sure it just permeated, and it just kind of took over my mind. And
yeah, I'm waiting for that collection to come out on DVD.
The Dick Van Dyke.
Yeah,
it is. We watched.
I gotta
we watched
get it.
No,
I just went
seriously.
through the Mary Tyler Moore shows. I want to go back into the Dick Van Dyke
We
show.
actually spent a year watching an episode every day at lunch.
Yeah, and then because I knew it was his favorite show, I went out and got him a birthday present.
That's
I got a
sweet.
copy of the TV Guide, and I got all of the cast.
Everything was perma with
that's
Carl
great.
Reiner
That's a Lowell, 'cause this was the show
Mary,
that-
Right.
Dick Van Dyke. Because that's how I got here. I mean, if I honestly think if not for that show, I wouldn't have found any purchase, any foothold in the business. And then you just these scripts would come in. In those days, they were mostly done. The stories were mostly assigned to freelance writers, not so much now. Now, the staff write their own, but they would come in, and then we would just pull them to pieces. We would just rewrite them from start to finish, and then we'd give them to the cast, and they would object to every single thing in it.
Did the actors have much input?
On the shows I worked on, they had enormous input. I mean, particularly on The Odd Couple. And their input was extremely valuable. I mean, Jack and Tony were masters, and so you would rewrite it all over again.
I didn't even work on The Odd Couple, but Tony Randall gave us the key. This is the word, or was it Jack? This is one sentence.
Jack, I know which way you're going.
What do I want?
What do I want? Taught me how to write.
That's so wonderfully minimalist and,
Yes.
and perfect.
And that's all you need to know.
Yes.
You read the scene.
Yeah.
What does he want?
And now the fact that he screamed it at me at the top of his voice.
That was the blessing. I wasn't there for
God
that.
help you if you can't answer an
And
actor's
that's how,
question like
and
that.
I think that's actually how I think I am responsible for the fact that Jack had all these throat problems the last 20
screaming.
years, screaming at me because I deserved it. I was so inexperienced that he and Gary and Tony, everybody really did have to teach me from the ground up. But that was it. A character just screaming at the actor. The character, what do I want? What do I want in this scene? What do I want in this story?
Their collaboration, I loved it when I was a kid. It was in syndication in New York. It aired 4 times a day, practically on
it was very popular
WPIX.
in New York, yeah.
So I kind of grew up with it also, but you really appreciate their work. I've seen every version of it from they tried an African-American version for a while.
Oh, yeah.
I've seen the female version. I just saw the new Broadway version. I saw obviously the movie, but you really feel like their work is the definitive work.
The thing was, even though that was a very tough place to work because they were very demanding, I think all the writers, even the more experienced writers, understood that they were actually better at their job than we were at ours, and so whatever kind of demands that were made, you really felt they were entitled.
That sounds like an amazing boot camp for a writer.
It was, and
That's
the
what it
writers
was.
themselves.
You know what? That's exactly what it was for me. You sit in a room and you write at home, and that's one thing. But when you're actually, and they have to perform it.
Yes.
The next day.
Yeah, and the writers I was working with, it was Gary Marshall and Jerry Belson and Harvey Miller and Jerry Paris directing. I mean, these were really the pros. These were the names I had memorized off the screen. And see, Happy Days, you mentioned Happy Days, but it was different. Happy Days you'd write, and Ron would do your material as if it was good, okay? Because in TV, you're churning so fast that some of it is like a bookmark. It's just a placeholder. He gave everything the shot, and you would sit there and go, oh my God, look what I've done. He's actually gone out there.
He's given it the college try.
Yes, and you'd go, I've got to give him wings. I've got, he's jumping off. He's jumping off the ledge. We haven't given him anything.
Responsibility to give him.
Yeah, so he gave us,
Of course, he quit the show.
But that was a different way of getting the best work out of us.
Babaloo, how did MASH work? Did you take anything?
MASH was a disaster. No, but MASH was a cool. MASH was like second cousin to the Marx Brothers, which when you're a young kid and you discover something unbelievable. So MASH had that same rhythm. So I came out here, was 72, was one of the shows. I wrote a spec script. I called up Fox. I said, give me the MASH office. I got Larry Gilbert, who created the show himself. His assistant was home.
First time right on the phone?
Picks up the phone. He says, hi, I'm a young kid. I just wrote the script. Said, bring it in, I'll read it. Would you read it? I wouldn't read it. I brought it in. He called me a half hour later, gave me an assignment. I didn't know what I was doing. Gave me an assignment, gave me an office. But unfortunately, they had created this other show, and I was hoping it would be a teaching experience, but it wasn't. But it was awe-inspiring because I watched him write a scene in the air. I've never seen anyone do this. Just he laid on his back, and he dictated to his assistant the entire scene, doing all the dialogue. I don't know if he wrote it at home or what, but I went home. Oh my God!
Yeah.
Unbelievable!
Yeah.
Wow, just off the top of his head.
Just off the top of it, you go. It's a whole.
So I used to sit there in The Odd Couple. We'd run into story trouble, and there'd be like this pause, and Gary Marshall would do. He'd just go, "What if?" and then take the story in a new way, where we were trying to like micro fix it, like kind of line by line, joke by joke. He would just go, what if, and just take it in a fresher, more interesting way. And you go, that's what I want to be able to do. That's my goal.
How does the partnership work when you're actually writing a spec? Can you walk us through kind of the process, using whatever example you want to use, City Slickers maybe, or whatever?
Well, we never write a spec. We always, it just.
Oh, it's always.
We always make a deal.
Oh, gotcha.
And then write. I don't say that in any boastful. It's just how we prefer to do it. I think it's our TV training. We want to know that somebody is waiting for that material.
Oh, so
somebody has bought it, and we're responsible for finishing it.
Somebody's not only waiting it, wants it. We'll shepherd it. We'll do something. We'll push us.
So
we can't change our minds in the middle and decide we don't want to do this.
So nothing's ever been written on spec for you guys.
No.
Ever?
Never. No, I don't think we trust our own discipline.
Show. This is it. This is it.
All right, I feel honored.
This is it.
Yeah, we might walk out in the middle of this, but other than that. When we're writing, Babaloo alluded to it earlier, it's very improvisational, it's very noisy, it's very out in the air. We don't do that thing, that other teams do, where we swap the scenes and take them separately and then turn them into each other. It's all written noisily, nose to nose, in this kind of energized way.
Was there a point in the partnership where you felt like you really hit your groove, or was it always easy?
It was always comfortable to work together.
Yeah.
I don't think that ever needed
I swear with movies, I personally don't know what's going to stick on the wall.
Yeah, I don't think I have any better insight. But I think after Parenthood, it was such a tricky job. Just the construction of the screenplay was sort of so intricate that for myself afterwards, when the movie came out, I felt like I was kind of in possession of a craft. That I owned a craft to some extent. Not, obviously there are people who are better, there are people who are worse.
Then you see a rough cut of A League of Their Own, go, who the fuck wrote this?
Yes, yeah.
It's 4 hours and it's unwieldy.
It would always feel like we could just completely fall off the fence. There's no question about it.
Before that, you'd have a moment of, I own my craft, which is a nice epiphany to have.
Yeah, it did feel like if somebody burst into our office, terrorists, said, you have to write this script. I'm not saying it would be good, but I'm saying, we could turn out something professional on demand on virtually any subject. I'm not saying you'd like it, or
I thought that was the beginning of a pitch for a second.
no. but you know, I did feel like there was a level of professionalism, if not art, at least professionalism, that we could bring to bear on any problem.